The 15th of October, 1944. In a nationwide radio address, Hungarian Admiral Miklós Horthy announces that Hungary has declared an armistice with the Soviets and has withdrawn from the Axis powers. The Germans react by installing a new Hungarian government under the fascist Arrow Cross Party, which resumes the persecution of Jews, and in under 3 months between November 1944 and January 1945, Arrow Cross death squads will murder approximately 38,000 Hungarian Jews. As many as 20,000 of them, both adults and children, will be shot along the banks of the Danube, with their bodies being thrown into the river. The Arrow Cross Minister of Defense and Chief of Army Staff is a man who not only orders the shooting of deserting soldiers, but also sends 70,000 Jewish men, women and children for forced labor under extremely harsh conditions, with many dying of exhaustion, starvation or disease. His name is Károly Beregfy. Károly Beregfy, the son of Lutheran parents, was born as Károly Berger on the 12th of February 1888 in the town of Cervenka, today's Serbia, then part of Austria-Hungary. When the First World War began on the 28th of July 1914, the 26-year-old Berger joined the army of Austria-Hungary and held the rank of lieutenant. The war ended on the 11th of November 1918, and Hungary had been on the losing side. In 1919, Berger, who during the war had been wounded, joined the army of the new Hungarian Soviet Republic and was promoted to captain. Though the de jure leader of the Hungarian Soviet Republic was President Sándor Gergely, the de facto power was in the hands of Foreign Minister Béla Kun, who maintained direct contact with Vladimir Lenin via radio telegraph and received direct orders and advice from the Kremlin. However, this short-lived communist state existed only for 133 days, from the 21st of March to the 1st of August 1919. In 1919, Admiral Miklós Horthy, who had been an officer in the Austro-Hungarian Navy, came to power as the head of a conservative nationalist coalition. Horthy presided for the next 24 years over an authoritarian, almost feudal system of aristocratic rule, which nevertheless had a functioning parliament and permitted political opposition. In 1932, Berger changed his surname to Beregfy. On the 28th and 29th of May 1939, parliamentary elections were held in Hungary, and one of the most powerful parties in the country became the Arrow Cross, which won 15% of the vote and 29 seats in the Hungarian parliament. The leader of this far-right, ultra-nationalist party, which was modeled on the German Nazi Party, was Ferenc Szálasi. Beregfy was sympathetic to the Arrow Cross Party from its beginning. However, he was not allowed to join it, as under regulations in the army, a military officer could not be a member of a political party. The Second World War started on the 1st of September 1939, when Nazi Germany invaded Poland. 2 months later, on the 1st of November, Beregfy was promoted to the rank of Major General. From the 1st of October 1939 to the 1st of November 1941, when he was promoted to the rank of Lieutenant General, he served as an inspector of the border troops. In November 1940, Hungary joined the Axis Alliance, which was a military coalition that initiated World War II and fought against the Allies. In June 1941, Hungarian troops participated alongside German troops in the invasion of the Soviet Union. From 1941, Beregfy fought in the Second World War as a commander of the 6th Corps, and from the 12th of June 1943 to the 15th of May 1944, he commanded the Hungarian Third Army. On the 1st of January 1944, he was promoted to Colonel General, and from the 25th of March to the 15th of April 1944, his Third Army was involved in the Battle of the Kamenets-Podolsky Pocket. The losses of the Hungarian forces in this campaign are not fully known, but units of the Soviet First Tank Army probably did take at least 1,000 Hungarian prisoners who had to retreat on foot in the mud. The main result of the battle was that the Soviets managed to cut the Lviv-Odessa railway, which was the main supply lifeline of German Army Group South, which was effectively split into two. In May 1944, the Hungarian Third Army was disbanded, and on the 15th of May, Beregfy became the commander of the Hungarian First Army, which from the 13th to the 29th of July 1944 fought against the Soviet Lvov-Sandomierz offensive. At this time, the Hungarians were attached to the German First Panzer Army, commanded by General Oberst Gotthard Heinrici, which in turn was part of the Army Group North Ukraine. The Lvov-Sandomierz offensive was a major Red Army operation to force the German troops from Ukraine and eastern Poland. Launched in mid-July 1944, the operation was successfully completed by the end of August. In total, Hungarian forces lost 30,000 soldiers who were killed, wounded, or missing. A commission investigating the causes of this military disaster found Beregfy personally responsible, and he was relieved of his command. By mid-October 1944, Horthy had begun final negotiations with Red Army commanders. However, when the Germans who had been occupying Hungary from the 19th of March 1944 learned of the region's plan to come to a separate peace with the Soviets and exit the Axis alliance, they kidnapped Horthy's son and threatened to kill him unless Horthy abdicated in favor of Ferenc Szálasi. Horthy complied, and the Germans installed a new Hungarian government under Ferenc Szálasi. A Nazi-backed puppet government of Hungary was named the Government of National Unity and was established on the 16th of October, 1944. At the time of the Arrow Cross takeover on the 15th of October 1944, Beregfy was resting with his family at their holiday home on Lake Balaton. Szálasi ordered him back to Budapest on the same day, and the next day, on the 16th of October, he appointed him Minister of Defense and Chief of Army Staff. On the 21st of October 1944, Beregfy issued a labor conscription decree. He ordered that Jewish boys and men between the ages of 16 and 60, and Jewish girls and women between the ages of 16 and 40 report for forced labor. Immediately following the announcement, Arrow Cross units unleashed a terror campaign against Budapest's Jews. They brutally forced the Jews out of their places, and then drove those who were selected toward the appointed assembly points. Approximately 70,000 people were assigned to labor battalions deployed to dig trenches and build the southeast wall, the system of fortifications planned by Nazi Germany with the intention of stopping the Red Army. The labor units worked under extremely harsh conditions. Thousands of men, women, and children who became exhausted and could no longer work were simply shot and buried in mass graves. Thousands more were killed in cold blood as the Soviet forces approached. On the 30th of October, Beregfy declared Hungary a maneuver area and subordinated all attainable human and economical resources to the war. He also established the Hunyadi SS Panzer Grenade Division, which was never properly formed, trained, or equipped, and after being evacuated from its training camp in the face of the advancing Soviet Red Army, it surrendered to the United States Army in Austria in May 1945. From late December 1944, Beregfy ordered that the straight-arm Nazi salute was to be used in the army, along with shouting a slogan, "Persistence, Heil to Szálasi." In addition, following the German example, he ordered the shooting of deserting soldiers. During their reign of terror, Szálasi and his government had little other intention or ability but to execute the party's ideology and to maintain control in Nazi-occupied portions of Hungary as the Soviet Union invaded. The Arrow Cross gangs perpetrated a reign of arbitrary terror against the Jews of Budapest. Hundreds of Jews, both men and women, were violently murdered, and many others died from the brutal conditions of forced labor to which the Arrow Cross subjected them. Between December 1944 and the end of January 1945, the Arrow Cross took as many as 20,000 Jews from the Budapest ghetto, shot them along the banks of the Danube, and threw their bodies into the river. During these mass murders, they shot people in the head, with the bodies falling into the water. To save bullets, their favorite method was to tie the waists of 3 people together with wire and shoot only the middle person, who would fall forward into the river, drowning the other 2 as the weight of the corpse dragged them down to the bottom of the Danube. Jews were also often rounded up on the streets by the Arrow Cross men, and their standard procedure was to take children away from their parents, then killing or beating any parent or child who protested. Beregfy, in his position, did nothing to prevent these atrocities. Beregfy held the position of Minister of Defense until the 27th of March 1945, and he served as Chief of Army until his capture. Having fled to the west, as with the rest of the Arrow Cross leadership, he surrendered to the US troops on the 30th of April 1945 in the town of Thun, in the southeast of Germany, near the border with Austria. He was subsequently arrested by the Americans, stripped of all his posts, and eventually extradited to Hungary. Justice finally caught up with Beregfy when, from the 5th of February 1946, he was tried in open sessions by the People's Tribunal in Budapest. Throughout the trial, he denied guilt, pleading disability and compulsion. However, the court did not accept his arguments, and on the 1st of March 1946, the tribunal found Beregfy guilty and sentenced him to death. Károly Beregfy was hanged on the 12th of March 1946 in Marco prison in Budapest, along with Arrow Cross party leader Ferenc Szálasi, the party ideologist and propagandist József Gera, and the Minister of Interior Gábor Vajna. The 4 men were marched to the gallows to be hanged one by one, and their public execution became a theater of horror. There was a large crowd of onlookers present. Some of the bystanders were in military uniforms, and some had cameras. Before being executed, Beregfy had received the last sacraments by a Catholic priest and kissed the crucifix. The 4 men were hanged without waiting for their pardon applications to be considered. The hanging was conducted in the Austrian pole method. A large timber was sunk vertically into the ground, and a rope was attached to a hook at the top. The 58-year-old Beregfy was marched up the steps, placed with his back to the post, his legs and arms tied. An executioner, First Lieutenant János Bogar, climbed a ladder behind the post, put the noose around Beregfy's neck, and tightened the rope. The steps were removed. However, with the post only leaving a couple of feet between Beregfy and the ground, it is likely that he died slowly due to strangulation, rather than being instantaneously rendered unconscious and dying shortly after, as would happen when utilizing the standard drop. This would also explain why his arms and legs were bound, as to prevent struggling during the process. Afterwards, cloths were placed over the heads of Beregfy and the others, their shirts were opened, and the doctor checked for a heartbeat. There were no tears shed for Károly Beregfy.
Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.